going on, everybody? My name is Jason. I work at All Out Bikes in Four Oaks, North Carolina, and every day for the month of December, I'm going to be pulling bikes out from my personal collection. They're going to be collectible bikes, they're going to be rare bikes, or just plain unique. So be sure to subscribe to see what comes next. Today's bike of the day is this 1954 Schwinn Hornet Deluxe. This one, the way we found this one is actually my wife was driving through Garner off of Old Garner Road, and as we were driving, I was looking out the passenger window and I saw a pile of bikes, and I saw the front of this bike sticking out, just peeking out of that pile of bikes, and I yelled, "Stop!" When I yelled stop, my wife, she slammed on the brakes and she was like, "What?" And I was like, "Turn around." So she turned around, and I told her to pull into the driveway of this house with this big pile of bikes. Now, I'm going to okay, this house, whenever I knocked on the door, a older gentleman answered the door, and I'm going to kind of change some of the wording, okay? Because in this story, this old man used some words that I didn't really like, so I'm going to say black man, and this guy didn't use the word black man. But anyway, so I knocked on the door. This old man answered the door, and I asked him if he was interested in selling that pile of bikes over there, and he was like, yeah, I'd be interested in selling the pile of bikes, and you can buy that whole pile for this much. And I was like, well, I don't actually want the whole pile of bikes. There's one bike that I want. And he looked at me and he kind of smiled, and he was like, "Which bike do you want?" And I was like, "Well, there's a Schwinn in there, an old Schwinn. Would you be interested in selling that bike?" And he was like, "Why, yes, I would like to sell that bike." So he gave me a price, and I was like, "Great." I gave him the money. I got the bike. Now, whenever I was pulling the bikes off of this thing, I got to the bike, and it was rough. It was very rough. It was so rough that the spokes that were in the wheels, they were just crumbling right in front of our eyes. I would touch the spokes. I'd just grab the spokes, and they just would crumble. Which, hey, I wasn't complaining. It's a really cool bike, and it had some real nice patina. So for the next 2 weeks, I was at work, not getting paid much money because I was clocking out every chance I had to clean up this bike and to refurbish it. So 2 weeks went by. I had rebuilt the wheels with new spokes and overhauled the hubs. I do have to say, these hubs had the original grease inside of it, and it was gold, okay, but it was hard as a rock. So whenever I was taking the hub apart, it didn't want to come apart because it had so much grease in there, factory grease, that it was like amber, okay, where it was almost like a rock. So that's one reason why it took so long. The bearings were in excellent shape. I took this bike back to where I bought it from. I knocked on the door, and I was like, "Hey, I've got that bike all fixed up. You want to check it out?" And he was like, "Well, yeah." And he looked at the bike, and he was like, "I never expected to see that bike like that again." So, he seemed to be pretty happy about it. And I asked him, "What's the story on this bike? There's got to be a story." And so he started telling me this story, and this is where he's using some words that I didn't really like. He was like, well, my daddy owned all of this right here, because this house was the only house that you could see. This was all farmland. And of course, you're looking around, there's houses everywhere. And he was like, well, my daddy had this black man that worked for him, and he did a lot of work for my daddy. And one day he came up to my daddy and he said that he needed to borrow $10 from him. My daddy lent him the $10, and some time went by, several months, and my daddy was asking him if he had the money to pay him back the $10. And the black man kept putting him off. Well, my daddy said, I'm going to take his bike, because he was riding around town with this 54 Schwinn, which makes me wonder, because it's a girl's bike. So he said, my daddy said, I'm going to take his bike. And he did. And that black man never paid my daddy back. So it's been sitting in the barn since 1955, and we didn't get it out till 10-15 years ago, where it's been sitting on the side of the tool shed, and then the bike fell over and bikes got put on top of it. So that thing had been sitting outside in the rain for like 10 to 15 years, which makes me wonder, what did the bike look like when it was in the barn? Because the bike was only a year old whenever it was taken, and or what's the word I'm looking for? Repossessed. Although repossessed isn't really a word. It was taken because of debt. But really, really cool bike. And it's actually kind of a cool little story. Now, this bike right here, as I said, it's a 1954 Schwinn. It's got most of the original parts. The hubs are original. The rims are original, although I had to paint them silver. Spokes are not original, although I did use original Schwinn spokes, because the shop that I was working at the time had been in business for many, many years, and we had boxes of original spokes from Schwinn on the cabinets. It's got some new pedals on there, but these are some old Union pedals, but they are not the original Schwinn pedals that were on there. It's got a really cool skip tooth chain on here, and I ended up putting a Brooks saddle on here because my wife, she wanted a old looking saddle, but she wanted something that was comfortable as well. So the Brooks saddle works quite well on here as far as looks, because whenever you first look at it, it just looks like an old cruiser seat. But really, really cool bike. So that's how we got this bike, and this is the bike of the day. If you enjoyed this video, please leave me a big thumbs up. Don't forget to tell your friends. Check out some of the other videos on the corner of the screen. Don't forget to subscribe to check out what we pull out tomorrow. I'll see you then. Thanks.